Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wisdom from the Field. Sitting here today, very special shliach, Rabbi Mendy Levertov from Chabad YJP of Austin. Welcome, Mendy.
Thank you for having me. It is entirely my pleasure.
Beautiful. So let's dive in. Tell us a little bit about your shlichus, how it started, how long have you been doing it for?
Okay, so technically and cut me off if you think that there's anything that have any questions. I'm very happy to be interrupted. Um, I was born on Shlichus in Austin, Texas, and I grew up on campus. That was my parents' primary Shlichus, and they also opened up like a day school, and they also opened up. They had community members, and it was a whole because there was only Chabadis in the city, but it was a campus Shlichus, at least initially. And I grew up in that experience as, the oldest child of shluchim. And so it was very formative to my entire, obviously, worldview, but also the shluchas as a kid, especially when you're a young kid in a big situation, it's awesome. And I grew up in that. And so, it wasn't a question if I'm going to go on shluchas. It wasn't even really so much a question as we grew up if I want to come back to Austin, which some people have this question of like, where do you want to go as you become a shliach? And maybe I went on shlichus 12 years ago in Gimel. So 13 years ago by now. So, people go on shlichus, they're like not sure where should they go and what's the opportunity and how to do it. When I grew up, I knew that Austin has opportunity and we'll just figure it out, especially as our city grew. I mean, everyone knows Austin, Texas. Because it has doubled its population every 20 years in the last, I don't know how long. So it's mamish growing like crazy, crazy, crazy. So when I got older and once I got married, I convinced my wife that Austin is a very good thing to try and to do. And so we came back on shlichus here. But uniquely in our situation, I think my parents were very, very welcoming to have us be part of the shlichus. I never felt like I was not in shlichus. I know some people they go to yeshiva and they're not in shlichus anymore. They're in yeshiva and they're bachrim. We obviously went to yeshiva and we left and we didn't like whatever. On shlichus, when we were there, and I helped my parents decide that they needed a secondary logo. I was in Mesiftesh or Bays, and I helped we got some ideas and we sent it to designer. I wasn't involved. Some kids were
Wow.
doing operations for their parents, sending out the weekly email type of thing. That I started when I was 20, and I was there's nobody else doing it, so I ended up doing it. But it was very much we weren't involved in shlichus and that kind of thing. When we came home, we ran events, we ran different stuff. My brother Levi started Yeshiva Experience when we were both, I was 20 or 19, and he was 2 years younger than me. So we did a lot of stuff on the shlichus, in the shlichus along the way. But it wasn't like we were in the administrative, we never in the back end of shlichus, basically. I just didn't feel like that to me. Maybe we were doing back end stuff that didn't feel like it. We mailed, we put stickers on the things, and we did the shalachmanas.
I have the memories of being in the post office putting on stamps.
And then did your father also do a mass mailing where if
Yes,
you
with
bring
the
it by
stickers.
code, it's much cheaper?
I don't remember the details, but I just
So
remember different coded stickers that went on the.
that was bulk mailing.
Right.
It took pricing down from 30 or 32 cents, 31 to 5 cents a piece, which is significant. I mean, in today's world, we're give it to a mailing house, we're also rich. But in those days, that was serious money. And I think it is serious money. So you'd spend 2 days, 3 days, color coding, that.
Yeah,
Anyways.
yeah, yeah. I share
So
that memory.
it's fun. There's also the dropping off shalachmanas. Would your father go into every single place? No. So you'd go, you drop off, and if the guy's at the door, you'd ring the bell and run away, hope they're not there. Because if they're there, then you have to actually talk to them. But there's not a person we want to talk to because they don't have time. They're going to sit with us for an hour. We don't have an hour. But I grew up on campus also. Oh, so this is what I wanted to say, that on campus, because we grew up on campus, the idea of public speaking wasn't foreign to us. I gave dvar Torahs, I gave speeches in my parents' Chabad house when I was 9, when I was 6. My parents let me, which is something that, because we're going to skip around everywhere, something that I actually try to do with my kids today, which is, even though it is sometimes not as coherent as your dvar Torah would be, and sometimes it might feel painful, especially when the kid is very young, they're 5, they're reading a dvar Torah, and not only they're saying all the Hebrew words from school, but they don't really know what they're saying, really. and the people around the table have definitely no clue what's going on. But I'm like, you're at my Shabbos table. Good luck to you. You're gonna listen to Dvar Torah, and then maybe there's. So we do. I mean, I do limit it to like 1 or 2 kids instead of like the roster goes down the thing. But the nakuda of like they should have opportunities to be involved in teaching classes. Like when I give a class, my
Right.
son's
Beautiful.
usually part of it. Anyway, that's something I got when I was a kid. And then I came back on shlichus to Austin in Tuf Shin Ayin Gimel. And when we came back, it was interesting. I mean, I could probably unpack if you want how fascinating it
Yeah.
was.
How did it? What happened? It came. Was it the Chatchila right into Young Jewish Professionals,
Oh.
or did it?
So young professionals wasn't really a serious thing yet. We came down right before Americans got into the whole young professional scene. There were a bunch of shluchim, Chaim Lazarov, Levi Shmatkin, Tzvi Drizin. I think Yair Wilhelm was already doing it, I believe, in the major cities, basically. May Schwartz was in the Chai Center. There were a bunch of stuff going on, like YJP or Chabad Young Professionals was like this new, it wasn't the thing yet. When we came down, our goal was to figure out how to unpack Austin. It was a city that was way ahead of where my parents had developed shlichus to. They had just shifted away from campus to be just focused on community. They brought down Zev Johnson, Zev and Ariella, to go over Chabad on campus. And so we came down Ayin Gimel in Samach Zion is when Zev and Ariella came. So I love Samach Zion. So it was like 6 years before. So they had built it. They had a school and they had a preschool but it wasn't like it was basically two completely separate places. Campus, community. And that was it. And our job was come and do everything else. So we didn't know what everything else meant. And the funding wasn't fully worked out because it was like all over the place. So we came down to figure out what we're going to do. And essentially my wife started a bat mitzvah club and I was giving Torah studies and I started making davening a little more streamlined, Shabbos davening day and like small things here and there. And we started this program and that program. And then Punkt, Mikveh USA was involved in helping renovate the mikveh. So my wife got involved in the design. We were doing a whole bunch of different stuff. And essentially, we're just like kind of unpacking this idea that there's multiple shluchim working in the same city. There's going to be people that you do know and people that you don't know. There's overlap and there's not overlap. It was very interesting. And then Americans reaches out to my father. Beryl Frankel, I think, called him. And he's like, we think that Austin needs a young professional shliach. This is like within a year of after I came down, or maybe a year after I came down. And he's like, oh, no, by the way, for the record, I was teaching an online school at the same time to like cover some bills.
Right.
My wife wasn't working. She was adjusted to the fact that she was in a new city with a new baby, with a new husband, with a new family. And he called my father and he's like, we think Austin is a young professional scene and we think it's important. I had already been talking to my wife and saying like, there's obviously a lot of young professionals floating around board that don't know what to do with themselves. They don't have a community for it. So we should do something for it. But the question was, how are you going to, how do you make it happen? Where's the money coming from? How are you supporting that? Nothing made sense. And then when Americans called my father, so he told him, he says, look, the truth is I have a son who just moved down here, who hasn't cemented his decision, like what he's going to do and where he's going to be. I would be happy to take the grant and apply it to him and he opens a new meisid. I do not want to have anybody else coming into the city because it makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
And they were agreeable, which I think is power to the people that be. Sometimes there's a lot of stubbornness, and sometimes there's not. And it was very much like, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. We spoke, we this, we that. And then Ayin Gimel, so Ayin Hey, Tu B'Shvat Ayin Hey is when we started. No,
So was
2015.
that 11 years ago?
Yeah, Tu B'Shvat Ayin Hey.
Wow.
Tu B'Shvat Ayin Hey.
Wow.
We had our first event, and we had like 35 people or 40 people. It was like insane. Never have a first event with 40 people. It's crazy. And then from there, we exploded.
Wow. So the grant, like how that covered you for the first tkufa? Like what was
Grant
the
was
extent of it?
35. It was 35 a year for 3 years, I think.
Okay.
And that was very, very critical because I ended up being able to rent a house that was a different area of town, sort of closer to where the young people probably live. It was also a mental thing for us, a mental thing for my parents, a mental thing for the community. Like
It's
this
like
idea
to
is a number,
differentiate yourself.
very, very much. Also, because donors now are like, oh, we can give to 2 Chabad houses. Not that they did so much, but the idea, and like when you go to somebody and say, hey, want to support us? It's hard for me to think, like, how would I say, like, I'm working out of the Chabad house, but when you give the, like, make sure you write on the check it says to me, or donate through this website instead of the other one,
Right.
because that money has to
Confusing.
come to me. Not that it would be hard to tell my father. My father would be very easy to like just figure it out. But even I don't even know if it, like, what if the donation comes in? I don't know. And part of fundraising, which is what probably the biggest challenge, is the confidence. This is what we're doing. This is
Right.
what you need to fund. And if you're like, this is what we're doing, and it's also part of, but don't worry, they don't pay our bills. But like, also, I'm not really sure how I'll get my paycheck. But if you give me $500, I'll have what to eat this week. And it's like, okay, like, what is going on?
Right.
So their
Right.
grant covered basically the rent of
Right.
the
Okay.
place,
That's a good
which
start.
isn't, which is significant in the sense that I could sleep because I knew that my rent was going to be covered. But there was everything else.
So did you have chayes to fundraise back in those early
I had
days?
a prize from the first day. From the first day they came down, my parents were never in a place where they had, at least at the time, for sure not, where they just had an extra $60,000 just sitting around, not in one place and not along the year. And it wasn't like they could just go and be like, hey, we need to have. Today things are very different because things have evolved a ton in the last
Hashem.
11 years. Austin now has 7 shluchim and shluchas, 7 couples.
Wow.
We have 6 Chabad houses. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. So when you came, it was 3.
I was the third.
Wow.
And then for 5 years, or 6 years, we were the third. Post-COVID, around COVID is when the next, like, everyone else started coming.
Wow. So
COVID meant
what was
had
that
like,
like? What was it like when you coming in, having to, starting a young Jewish professional, community, and having to fund it, and what was that like?
so first of all, the first year was very difficult. It was easy and it was very, very hard because part of it was we still didn't know what we were gonna do. Like we had tzlacha I had like a Torah studies. I had twice, and I started JLI for my father, right? I had tzlacha. I had 5 people at Torah studies, and I had like 15, 20 at JLI, and my wife had a bat mitzvah club, which was really, really cool. It was 11 girls, which was actually huge because it was very chashuv, the type of people that came in and the atmosphere that it lent. And it was really like an opening up of like the pot. Like that's when we saw that the pie of what's going on in Austin is much bigger than what we had previously kind of approached. But one of the biggest challenges is, what are you doing? Like what are you supposed to do? Once we got young professionals as our main like designation, then it was a little easier because then you
Right.
knew at
Right.
least who you're targeting,
Okay.
right?
But also you didn't have. It's not, you said, like, YGP was a new phenomenon. You didn't have people to like say, oh, this is roadmap for building a young Jewish
I
professional
had a few
community.
people to talk to that I ended up doing a lot of that for other people afterwards. Thank God I like talking, and I talk on a lot of places. This podcast is an example. I say yes to talking. So people called me after to able to help, share like what worked for me. I think the first people that I spoke to was probably Tzvi Drizzen in Dallas, just to figure out like what are the nuts and bolts of like what's going on, and Levi Shmutkin from Chelsea, from CYP New York. I spoke to him more about the other side of things, which is what are we doing on young professional shlichus? Like first of all, what boundaries do you need in place? Like what does and doesn't make sense? We're going into shlichus. We're 22. They're 22. Guys and girls. It's very like then especially all events were in bars. I think most young professional shluchim have moved away from that. But then the only place you did an event was in a bar. Can you walk into a bar? As a bacher, you never walk into a bar. Even today, I don't really go into bars as a thing. Just because, like, why would I mean, we have a happy hour every month in a bar, mind you. But it doesn't mean that when I'm there on the clock, so to speak. I'm there for a purpose. I don't go out to drink
Right.
with friends. If you want to
Right.
come, if you want to drink with the rabbi, which the rabbi doesn't drink, we only say l'chaim. But if you want to come drink with the rabbi, you can come to my house and I'll be happy to drink with you. Or you can come to my Chabad house and we'll be happy to drink with you there. We have alcohol, ordinate amounts of alcohol in both locations. And I'll be happy to drink you under the table. No problem. And don't go to a bar. As like an unofficial policy. Have I gone? Of course. Have I sat with people? Of course.
So you're saying back when you started,
But the first year was incredibly, incredibly difficult. We didn't know what we were doing. Like I said, I was teaching in online schools. I still half the day. My wife was doing things. We're all doing things. A lot of it is like busy work that wasn't really work. You didn't feel satisfied. It's interesting. I don't think I've shared this much. There's a guy who's in my Shver's Chabad house. So one of the things that I was blessed with is a very good Shver that believe very, very strong. As much as my parents believed in me, Shver also believed in me to this like crazy, unreasonable level, which is great for my self-esteem, which was very, very important in that, especially in that first year and a half. And I don't say it's depression. It was just I was down in the dumps in a price. And also the money's going out. There's no money coming in. So whatever money I had, like put aside from the chassan, that's what I survived on for the first year, which was a You just watch the account. And I was being paid from online school, very little. I was getting a little bit of like things. It was miserable. So this guy who was in their Chabad house, his name is Eyal, and he is a great guy. And before we went on shlichus, he wanted me to move to New York, to Valley Stream. He really, really wanted me to move to Valley Stream. And we were like, no, for a variety of reasons, mainly because I was like, Austin is insane. There's so much upside. Like, how can we and there's so much potential. And my parents are ready to do whatever you want. Literally. They're like, you want to take over the Chabad house fully? I'm like, no. But like in theory, they're like, it's not a bad idea. I don't think it would
Kol
be.
haaretz lefanecha.
Yeah, basically. And in New York, it's like you're being hemmed in on all sides. Not in a bad way, but like the way you need. I mean, today I would be less afraid of doing that. Like today, if you asked me, want to go to New York, I'd be like, well, let's see. Like, what am I good at and what? Actually, not a terrible idea. But then it was like, no way it was even possible. But Eyal came to give me a parting gift before we went on shlichus. And he gave me a nanach tehillim, a gigantic tehillim. It was nanach, the tikkun haklali in the back, a picture of one of the, I think Rav Nassan, one of their guys in the front. It was this like ridiculous thing. It looked like it was maybe like someone gave it to him and he didn't even he just want to give it to me.
Pass it on.
Yeah. But he highlighted on the first page, Kol asher yaseh yatzliach. In capital Aleph. And he highlighted it before he brought it over. And he opened it to the first page. He showed it to me. He says, this is your destiny. Like, you're for sure going to be successful.
Wow.
No words. And I was surprised with myself. But that actually, later on, 7-8 months later, I would open it to him and say to him to see it. Because it said to me, because again, who trusts in you? Your parents for sure believe in you. That's because that's not earned. That's not real. At least not to yourself. My in-laws, I was blessed with in-laws that also believe in me. And again, it's also, they don't know me from beans. Think like a normal, thoughtful human being. My wife believes in me because she has no choice. What's she supposed to say? That she married a loser? That doesn't make sense. So she either believes in me or she doesn't, or she believes in me, she doesn't say that she doesn't believe in me, even if she doesn't. We don't even know, right? So what's left? It's a crisis. It's a really scary thing. And here I have a physical manifestation of some random dude who liked my charisma, liked the way I talk, liked the way I teach. And he basically said,
Wow.
I have real faith. And that's, again, the Rebbe also believes in you, but that's because the Rebbe says, yeah, but you're going to have to work for that. And the biggest challenge, I think, that it comes in general with these kind of things is, the bracha and the kli, you're always worried, how much keli am I supposed to make? And part of that problem is that you're never 1,000% sure. So if things are not working, you just say, well, it's my fault because I haven't done the keli correctly. And that could be a never-ending thought.
Okay.
So you're like, okay, so the Rebbe believes in you, but also with the responsibility, and also the belief is kind of almost like unearned. It's because you're a chassan, you're a shliach, and you're a shaman, and finished. You'll be fine. Like, I believe in you but that, to take it from here to reality,
right?
So all of that doesn't really work. And then this Tehillim is like this thing where it's this guy who's just like, it's gonna be amazing, it'll be fun. I don't think I've, this is something which is, it carried me through in a very, very funny way. Funny because it's so random.
That's wild.
It's so strange. In Mamish, there were times when I was like, I won't get depressed. I don't get depressed. But I was in a funk. I was in a bad, what am I doing? And even not even opening it. I could see the Tehillim. It was on my shelf. I still have it. And I still have it. I'm keeping that for a long time.
That's beautiful. It goes to show, I'm sure he didn't realize how powerful that message would
Probably,
be.
probably. And he believed it. I knew he believed it for real. Like he spoke about it before, and he spoke about it after. And we would talk like I mean, we go back to visit, at least once a year for like a period of time. And every time he's like, "How's it going? I know it's gonna be successful." I mean, we were successful fairly quickly. Like I've done like these over the years kind of review type of thing, and we had Hatzlacha very quickly. Hatzlacha is first of all this thing which like it really depends on where your bank account is holding or who smiled to you this week. But also it really depends on like what your expectations for yourself are. There's a lot of things that what is Hatzlacha,
Right.
and
Right.
especially when you're on the front end of it, you don't know if you're going to make it or what's going to be. Because you're afraid. What if you're like that shliach that goes to some place and like, whatever. They're successful. They're great. It's very nice. That means the shliach in every city. So you're the shliach in every city. Have you done anything?
How Taka did in those early years, like, was it a question of like, will this work? Is this sustainable? Like setting out to work with young professionals and
Sustainability was a question that came earlier. Hatzlacha with the experience was not so was different. The first thing we started with was a class. I mean, going for coffee with people, which I wasn't afraid of. I'm not afraid of that. I love doing that. When I have a lot of time for it, it's great. So the first thing I did was I basically gathered young adults just to see if they'd be interested in coming for Shabbos dinner and things like that. It was wonderful. I had 1, 2, 3 brought them to the Shabbos table, come together, things like that. It was very nice. And I started a class. Well, I met a guy at an event and he wanted to start a class. Started a class every Tuesday night. That would take up 2 days of my life every week. It was great because it also gave me what to do. But I wrote classes from scratch. And I have, if anyone wants them, I can easily share them with you. Just message me. Some are great, some are terrible. I'll be honest. Some are like scattered. And also, I can talk. I don't have a problem talking. But the thing was that it was discussion based. So it was like questions and answers. I think JLI through CYP did like a thing, and I got the idea like that was a good model on how to do it. And I just ran with it. And we had a class every single evening for a year and a half, 2 years. It was over 100 classes, and that was gathered. It brought people into the door. That was, we had a steady group of 10, 15 people every single week. It was incredible. Sometimes it was 3, sometimes it was like 20, but it was like, it was great. And that's where I would pontificate and talk about stuff and things like that. And then we started with First Fridays. Not too long after that, I remember our first major success. We had 23 people, including my wife and me. It was wonderful. And we did it in our house. We had no room. Glorious, glorious, glorious. Our first event that we did without asking people about doing it. We just decided we're going to do it. Was a kiddush and cocktails event at my house. And my house, this is the house, not the house I'm living now, the previous house, and it had dimmers on the lights. And we're like, this is gonna make this very fancy. We rented. I spent the entire Friday. My wife is cooking, making teeny little bites. Okay, a whole day she's spending making teeny bites. I run to rent a cocktail table and a tablecloth, so it looks fancy. That took most of my day, and we dimmed all the lights. That took another hour to make sure all the lights are good. And we were ready. We were so excited. It was like on Facebook, and it was like incredible. We called it for 7:00. By 7:10, nobody was there. By 7:20, 7:15, the worst thing that could possibly happen was 2 visitors from New York showed up to check out the young professional scene in Austin. There's like this YJP in New York, and there's 4 YJPs in New York, right? And so come to Austin. Austin's a great city. And we quickly made kiddush, and then we ate a bunch of cocktail bites for about 15 minutes, and then we both agreed that the night was wonderful, and they can leave. They can go out to the bars or something, and we're going to wallow in our misery, which we did. And that was the worst part was
that was the event. No one else came?
It was miserable.
Wow.
The best part about it was that the next morning we woke up and the house was still dim. Right?
Look at
For
that.
the rest of the time, it was like squinting at each other. So you couldn't even forget how bad it was. That was intense.
Wow.
But
that was how early on? How early on when was that?
November of 20. I have to check.
So this is almost you started. You said February, so it's almost a year, right? Or 3/4 of a year.
We didn't move I didn't open YJP officially. Okay. I opened the 501c3, and then I moved to my house, and before Tisha B'Av and Vav. This is like November. It's like Chazon of Vav and Vav.
Okay, so this is like your first.
Yeah, and then we did First Fridays, like 2 or 3 months later. We had like 25 people. part of it, I think the lesson to us then, and we made that major mistake once majorly again, and then like over the years, you always make this mistake. It's not a big deal. But one other time we did a white party. We tried a white party, and basically I lost $2,000 on it because we had 30 people come, people pay tickets and things like that. It was supposed to be like 100 people. It was a disaster. So we learned to listen to what your crowd wants, ask people, and if they say yes, don't trust that they're all going to say yes. They're all going to come, but at least you get a feeling for like, is it an idea b'chalal or not an idea?
Do you use that? Do you still use that?
Yeah, if I'm trying something new, I'll workshop it. I'll talk to people all the time about it. My classes on Shabbos,
nice.
on all the time. I'll talk about an example right now. We want to do a music thing where you turn the lights off. It's not Chabad, it's very acoustic because we don't have a proper window curtains, so now we have a lot of echo. So it's a great time. We'll do acoustic music. One of the guys actually offered. He was involved in a company that did this for a long time in Austin. He was like the regional director, and he's like, he stopped working for them a while back, but he's like, I used to do this. I know how to do this. Let's do it. The Hasidic Jewish version of that, acoustic music, Jewish / Lubavitch songs. I'm obviously leaning into Nigunim, but he wants to do Jewish. I'm happy to have a Jewish experience. People sit on the floor on their like little whatever. The lights are basically off. You have a bunch of candles, fake candles, that they're not like going to burn your building down. And he's like, let's do it. And I'm like, okay. And I spoke to like 40 people already about this in the last 3 weeks. And most of them are excited about it, which means that we're probably going to have 20 people by the first one. And 20 is enough.
Wow.
By the way, one of the expectations is a big thing. If I wanted this to be as big as my other events, I don't know if I would get that. I'd probably be depressed. One of the biggest things that I tell shluchim is that if you're starting a shir, don't call it a shir, call it a chavrusa. Because a chavrusa is a success if one person shows up. A shir is not a success unless you have 3 or 4. It drives you bananas. Was it a shir? Was it good enough? You're willing to sit with a Jew for an hour and learn Torah? For sure. Are you willing to sit with? Is your wife willing to bake cookies? Are you willing to bake cookies? By the way, men can bake cookies. You willing to bake some cookies for this share of yours? Yeah. Okay. So it's a chavrusa. What's wrong with that? It's wonderful.
You're saying a second person comes. It's all.
You doubled your chavrusa. Can you imagine? You had 2 chavrusas for the price of 1. Is that incredible? And then it grows to like a 4-person chavrusa. So maybe the dynamic changes in the thing itself because you're not talking to one person anymore. So now we have a shift, and then it's a share. So now you've moved up. But if not, it's fine also. Just be realistic of what your crowd wants, what you want, what makes sense. Don't lower your expectations because it's an easy way to get out of what you're trying to do. Lower your expectation to be realistic. The closer you are to reality, the healthier and more helpful it's going to be for yourself.
Is that a stira to having big ambitions or?
No, because lat agashanu. Everything takes time, step by step.
You're saying being realistic in how it'll unfold and it'll take time.
How you'll get there? How are you gonna move the ball?
Right.
And if you go for something which is beyond the thing and you don't get depressed, you can go for something crazy and see how it goes. We had a white party with 30 people. I don't know, depressed is a strong word. I'm using a very strong word here. I was pretty down afterward. It just felt stupid. Just so dumb. And it was like, and in retrospect, obviously, it was like, what kind of retarded thing did you just do? Like, why would you even try that?
Well, the expectation was what, to have like a few hundred, you said?
I don't know. That's the thing. I didn't have any concept of expectation. And by the way, I'm going to say we keep going through this right now. We're working on a project that we thought was going to be more accepted by the community. And it is, but we're charging more for it because it has to cover itself because of what it's supposed to be. And it's Segetzach, you know how it is. And are we stressed about it? Of course, Baruch Hashem. And at the same time, it's like maybe we have to educate our community. Maybe we have to work harder. And maybe it was a mistake. Your email that you sent out, 2 days ago? About the shliach whose thing flopped?
Yeah.
Everything flopped and had the 3 lessons. I liked it. It was very nice. This is a pitch for Tziki's email. If you don't get his email, you should get his email. Very good.
Link in the comments.
And it's written out very, the way we have the one word in every line. So it's very nice. So you can read it very nice. Right through. It's great.
Nice. I love this liquid. I think it's really valuable. But I want to take you back for a minute. That's okay. When you're starting out, we spoke about like, Bachal building out and building a community, but on the financial support side, like what was that like building specifically a young professional community where, the people you're serving are starting out, right? So like, what was that like? Was there challenges in that journey of building financial support and stability?
So I think there's a few things. Number one is that no one's journey is the same. It's very, very hard to realize that. Even among the shluchim that I consider like my good friends within YJP, right? There's a bunch of shluchim. I mean, I'm friends with a lot of shluchim, but there's certain people that look to them like that's something I want to replicate, right? Some of them have a massive, massive high society, a monthly thing, and that was always pitched to me as being like the most important way you're going to have support. You have a high society, it's okay. You know, it's doing. I think I have 50 people in it, bringing in a significant amount of money. I'm gonna say real numbers on the table here because I think it makes sense. Um, my high society brings in about 7,000 a month, but that is with the caveat that there's like 3 big givers in that. Like one, like over, like maybe 1 or 2 are over 1,000. So really, it's not a high society. Really, it's their annual gift split into 12 or something, right? So that counts. If you remove that, it's close to like 4, 5, 4. Um, Some shluchim are very into that. I found that a few things. Number one is that linear, direct fundraising is actually critical, the most annoying, works the best. Where you sit down with the presentation, and it's getting off your tuchus to do it is very difficult because it requires bittul. That's the truth. It requires bittul, and there's 2 parts of bittul that it requires, in my opinion. It requires the bittul that some people feel like I'm a shnar, right? That's not real. That's fake. And that's not something which
Imagined,
it's imagined, and also you need to get over that. Like you're not starting for yourself. You're asking money from a meisid, and you're all the psychological things you've spoken about this, and I've heard every person that talks to shluchim about fundraising kind of goes into this a little bit, which is like, you know, all the things you're a shliach of the Rebbe, that whole thing. So that you shouldn't feel. But there's also a bit of pashut that you need something from somebody.
right?
There are very, very successful shluchim, very, very big name shluchim with big Rolodexes who don't fundraise very well. And in thinking about it and talking to their people who work for them or them or whatever, the reason why they don't, I'm not going to name names and point fingers, but the reason why these people don't fundraise is because they're too full of themselves. They can't have the idea. They have to ask somebody else for something else. And I think that if we remind this to ourselves, that a shtickle bittul doesn't hurt.
We just had in Rambam, the Eibishter is Hakol Tzrichim Lei. Everybody needs him. He doesn't need anyone. Everyone needs him. So maybe it's like
And by the way, part of this also is that a lot of times when we go to somewhere, we try to bring something. So we're always mashpia, right? Always mashpia. There's a challenge that has to be that when you take something from somebody, you thank them. You have to actually accept. You have to be
right.
willing to take.
Be a
Willing
makabel.
to be a makabel. It's very, very difficult if you're not in that position usually. Whether you want to talk about it as a man,
Interesting.
versus whatever, all these things, it's very hard to be a makabel. It's very, very difficult. So you go to a big balabas and he gives you, like, you're like fabricating with him. What you're doing, like you're like being mashpia on him in the moment that he's giving to you. You're trying to be the mashpia in the ruchnian side, which is also true. It's not against it, right? But also just say thank you. Without what you're doing now, we wouldn't have been able to do it. I
Right. Saying the
appreciate it.
bittul, the humility of I'm receiving. And
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, and it's hard.
Wow.
It's. I think it's hard, and sometimes when life is going very well, you have to remind it to yourself because you have to fundraise. Because when life is going well and you don't fundraise, then you're in a situation where life is not going so well anymore, and then you have to fundraise because you have to. And that fundraising from a place of desperation is much more difficult. It's a lower level of bittul, which then screws you over. That's the question.
Right.
Lamata, it's not healthy. If it's Lamaila, it's very healthy. It's actually the and there's also the letter of Fidikareva that this goes around Shlochim have all the time. That one of the spoken, I think, to Hashadar, maybe a Rav that was fundraising. Like, this is kapara on your Averis, etc. Vidal. And this is something that you are this is this is a way, one of the ways that we today have. You want sigufim rolling in the snow? No, your sigufim are going to be texting the guy who you don't really want to text, or calling him and being like, "Hey, can we sit down to talk about money or budget or whatever your language is?" It's not easy. I'm good at doing the low hanging fruit. Very good at the low hanging fruit. I think everyone's probably good at that, but I'm very good at that. Um, I try to avoid anything higher than low hanging fruit. I keep scanning the branches, see if anything fell low, so I can patch that. It's like, oh, there's another low hanging fruit. Let me grab that. It's great, right?
You have to bend down the whole tree so like all the fruits
Yeah,
start to.
exactly. I mean, a lot of and another piece that's important to think. So going back to the main code, the people who gave and give support what we do are people who I meet every week and learn with them. Those are our largest supporters by far, by far.
They are from the young Jew professional community
From
or beyond.
Mostly young professionals. I had a few people that were inspired by me and Yiddishkeit and personality and the mission, etc. That they gave significantly in their older people, and I, cultivate them as best as possible. Non-Jewish guy doesn't even live here. Is amazing individual, has been giving me for many years and totally out of the blues. It was to get. And I mean, I recognize it. It was totally chance. I recognize it. He recognized it. We talk about it. It's incredible. Honestly, if it wouldn't be for him, I wouldn't be able to have done what I did.
Wow. So coming back to, again, you're starting out, you have a grant, your
Learn
rent
with
is
people.
covered, but
Meet with
you're learning with people.
learn with
But
people.
how did you? I'm sure you didn't have such a long runway of time to figure out like how do I cover this? What
And
was
it's
that?
also been up and down because your expenses go up as well as time
Right,
progresses. Hopefully.
right.
So it's interesting. I've spoken with you about this before. There's a mimer that I learned last summer, which was incredibly critical for me at the time, and still is. But it came in the precise moment, and there's certain yanim that you learn. Maybe I'm woo woo. I don't know. Certain yanim that you learn in the right time and place that really kicks you, and it gives you the understanding. I mean, there's the basic stuff, which is like learn Rambam and Taki when you're on top of Rambam very, very seriously. And now that Israel, they have a whole campaign that if you don't have Chavis in Rambam, you don't have Chavis in life. They're trying to convince the whole world that that's how you do it. It's very true. But there was still, you sometimes have to see in front of you where the money is going to come from, something, an idea, a concept. We just bought a building. And when you buy a building, it wipes out your entire, first of all, if you had any money in your bank, it's gone, hopefully, because you're buying the maximum size building you can possibly buy. And of course, if you have extra money, you're going to renovate. And with this and that, and your expenses go up. Kitzer, cash flow, money going through my account wasn't so bad. Cash flow of like actually having money for the things that I needed, in particular for like things that I needed, not like the building, like life, whether it's my salary or whether it's like the things that our Chabad house is doing that need to cover, like pay the different people, whether it's our house cleaning help or whether it's other things, like very touch and go, very, very touch and go. And I learned a mimer, it's a mimer in Muluket. It's
Chafav, right?
a chaf of mimer. I just looked it up earlier today. I wanted to be accurate. I think it's chaf gimel. I don't remember exactly. You can look it up. It's not so hard. It's only one of them. Oh, it's in the chelik dalet of Muluket, side the old one and side the new one, for those who have both. It's a mimer. Basically, the Rebbe speaks about the of mun, and how mun. There's two explanations or three explanations why mun is called vayancha ve'avecha, makes you hungry. Eating mun makes you hungry because. So the first answer is that mun makes you hungry because you don't know if you're going to pass beside tomorrow. Second is that you're going to eat mun and you're not going to be full because it's you don't see the food that you're tasting. You taste steak and it's fluffy quinoa ice cream. I don't know what it is. Right? It's pichas b'dvash. And then you're eating whatever green beans and you don't see it also, so it doesn't fill you up. But then there's a deeper beer, which is is that actually the food, the eating the mun itself makes you hungry because mevatel you. Every bite that you take makes you more hungry.
Saying it doesn't just not satiate you; it actually makes you hungry.
It's worse. In a
Right.
certain sense, it's like it's like Yom Kippur essentially. And Yom Kippur, you could be hungry, or Lachiyas and Barav. The chayes itself makes you hungry because it's hecher from Welt. It's not that it's outside, or as the Rebbe explains about Torah. There's Torah that's outside of your understanding, and that's why you don't understand it. So you're hungry because you don't understand it. Then there's Torah, which is l'mayla migeder havana. It's not. It doesn't even exist in seichel. So when every time you have it, just all it does is mevatel your mitzias. That's all it does. And what's the solution essentially? To understand that that's exactly it. Bittul. If you are comfortable drinking straight from the fire hydrant and getting this higher hashpa, then it's gonna hurt. But it's the best. It's like, I don't know, it's like going to a sauna where the pain is the thing, right? Where the nakoda is the thing itself. So I learned it in the way that I learned it then, and that has a beer from his father. It's very, very big shmaka maimer.
So what was the impact it had?
My takeaway from the Maimer was that you have to do what's right and trust in the Eibishter, and it's going to be very, very scary at times, and you can't just be lazy. Even though I am quite lazy in my fundraising, in the sense that like I said, I like to pick low hanging fruit and push everything else off. But you have to be willing to work. But the biggest stress of like where is it going to come from and how's it going to work out or whatever, that is it. You're going to not know. You're not going to know, and it's going to be a bittul, and it's fine. And if you can live with that, you have the stress on you, but it doesn't hurt. You know that you don't know, and you kind of maybe have an idea for something, but not the whole thing.
You're embracing pain of not knowing.
You're embracing that it is mon from the Eibishter, and it only comes from the Eibishter. And even though it's lechem min haaretz, it looks like it's lechem min haaretz. You think it's lechem min haaretz. You make a hamoitzi, and you say lechem min haaretz. At the end of the day, when you say birkas hamazon, you're saying the birkas hamazon that Moshe invented for the mon, and that's really what's going on. And so when you get a check, you thank the guy, and you make sure to do all the best practices when it comes to fundraising, etc., etc. And you understand that a guy gets inspired to give you a $10,000 check when you're freaking out how you're going to cover the next $10,000 you need, and a $200 check is not going to do it. It's a $10,000 check or it's a nothing. And then you happen to be going somewhere and you meet someone who Rabbi, I owe you money for your building. Very nice. How much? We never discussed how much. I thought he's gonna give it to me like, whatever. He said I went out to my car to get the checkbook. He comes back inside and writes me a check on the spot for $10,000. I was shocked and not shocked at the same time. I can't explain it. On the one hand, I was floored, but not because of. I was floored that it works. It's real. Now you can't be lazy and just wait till the last day of every month and be like, okay, I hope it's gonna work. You have to work. That's the bittul you have to bring to the table if you want to be, pragmatic, real about it. But at the same time, it's like,
right. So our YBA, my David is going to give you what you need in the right time.
The Maimer is masbir. Why does man come every single day? Because it is bli gvul. It can't sit in gvul. So it has to be reinserted into gvul every day. So that way it's still bli gvul, but you have to push it into gvul. So every day it comes out again.
So you can't save miracles in a savings account. It has to come.
It doesn't work. Right. It won't work. And you have to pretend that it's not miracles. You pretend that it's real. And you have to build and you have to build for it. You can't be like, okay, that's great. I'm going to create a budget that's $500,000. So that way, because Hashem will send it. Well, if your mosed isn't $500,000, and your organization isn't $500,000, and your people, your balabatim are not $500,000, like if you're working in a world that's not feasible, then you're just meshuggah. Meshuggah is not nevuah.
Right.
But
even the man, I'm just thinking about this now. Even the man, it came, according to the amount of people you had in your house, right? Like there was a cheshbon to it.
Excellent. And it came in the morning and in the evening, or in the morning, once in the morning, just in the morning. Slav came in the evening.
In the morning, yeah.
Came every morning. It didn't come at lunch. You had to get up and get it. If you didn't get up, And if you're depending on, you want to go to the midrashim, if you're depending on who you were, you have to go further out or closer in. You have to bake it, you have to grind it, you have to shell it, depending on who you were, right? There were things going on. It wasn't like everyone stood outside and waited for the month to fall in their mouth.
Right.
But at the end of the day, where's lechem and shemayim? A whole different world.
Wow.
But you have to be willing to understand that you can't be lazy. And that's, again, this is the part. There's a vart I saw in a mimer. I think it was, I'm learning with Kol Dach, so I think it was now don't get too excited. I don't learn like consistently as much as I sound. Like I sound much more learned than I am. But I was learning with Kol Dach, and it's masber that the physics of his masber that chesed, someone does chesed to somebody. The reason why chesed for another person much easier than chesed to yourself in a certain sense. Because the person knows chesed and satzme, and he knows the reason why I don't have, essentially the same. Imagine a poor person. He says, "Why don't I have money right now? Because I spent it a month ago on whatever. It was only $100, but that, imagine if I would have had that $100 now. And also, I know that I don't deserve it, Betzim. And I know that chveis, if you make a calculation how many mitzvahs and averes I've done in the past month, or whatever cheshbonos you make for yourself, how hard I worked, how much whatever, like all these things that you can like calculate for yourself, however you calculate your life experience, so you don't have as much compassion for yourself. Versus for somebody else, you don't make the cheshbon at all. You say you need help. Let me give you. Which I
So what are
found,
you saying this? What are you
it
saying
blew
this
me
regarding?
away. It blew me away. Stam, and this the coda of like a shliach working hard and whatever. You're like you try all these things at the same time. You have to believe that the Eibush is going to take care of you, and you're going to starve and you're going to be full at the same time. It's going to be fine. And even though maybe you don't deserve it, you try to make sure that you do what you can. You do what you have to do, and you're gonna doubt yourself and say, "Did I make enough phone calls this week?" And sometimes you need to have a little moment with yourself or with someone. I'm going to put a plug in here for coaches, which I think is very, very powerful. I'm a person that it took me a long time in my head to come to the conclusion that people change, even though I work with people to change them. Like I want them to change, inspire, and I inspire myself to change sometimes. But I think I had in the back of my head, like
It's like
whatever.
it finally absorbed inward that people could change.
People change. I change. People, and that's why it's worth working with a coach. Like I don't work with coaches because it's whatever. It's always the same. They harass me and I harass them, and then we don't get anywhere. I don't think it's true. People can teach you a technique. People can encourage you. We meet weekly. This is great. I think that there is an idea of having someone talk to you and be like, where are we up to? What's going on? Like, just so you're not dumb and wasting your time. Because Baruch Hashem, WhatsApp is very interesting, and that's besides the rest of social media, right? Depending if you're even if you're decently popular, you should be in at least one or two groups that can keep you busy for hours. And I think a lot of people are on like, I don't know, 70 to 90 groups between family and friends and cousins, classmates, and school and this and the working groups and temp groups. That's a lot of time that can be taken up. So there is a possibility to actually just wasting your time. It's very possible. But the point is that if you're working, like, did I work hard enough? Because you can always be down on yourself. I made 10 phone calls. Was that enough? I made 5 phone calls. Was that enough? Should I really have done 30 phone calls? Sent out 1,000 emails? Should I just blast a hole about it? Should I pay COL to put an article on it? Maybe. Who knows? You can always find another stupidity that's going to be like, that's the thing that may work. So you can't go crazy about it. And you have to believe.
Wow, beautiful. Do you mind if I jump for a minute? You brought it up, so I'll go there. You said, Baruch Hashem, you guys bought a place. It was Yud Nissen, right? You closed Yud Nissen last year.
We were supposed to close Ches. But the money
Right.
didn't come through, the loan didn't come through, the signatures didn't come through, the guarantors didn't come through. Everything was coming. It was Ches, Tes. I flew to New York with the keys.
Wow.
On Yud, knowing that it closed Yud in the afternoon, like all the paperwork was finally ducks in a row, and Yud Nissen in the morning, it officially went through.
Wow. Could you share with us a little bit of how that happened? Was it in the works for a while? What happened that made you?
What made it happen?
Go? Yeah. Or like, or even decide like, okay, was it an opportunity that came up, or did you decide like we need to get a space? Like, how did that all happen?
I'm a dreamer in a certain sense, and I always dream about crazy things. And we always knew we had to have a Chabad house. We always thought we were going to have I don't own my house, for example. I rent a house. And I have some very close Balabatim, Baruch Hashem. We're very, very close and very believe in the whole thing. And, I've spoken with them many times. We need to have a place, we need to have a building. Our house that we used to live in until 3 years ago was 1,200 square feet. It was 3 bedrooms. Actually, 1,100 square feet. Sorry, it was 1,100 square feet with a garage. And we had 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. One was in my bathroom, like the master bathroom. One was like so we had people come into our house for events and programs. It was one bathroom. That was my kid's bathroom. Erev Shabbos bath time ended with First Fridays that night. Everyone's using the same one bathroom. Like to the point that one of the guys found the porta potty down the street and he was like using that. It was great. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And Baruch Hashem, we had a lot of people coming through, and that was young adults. So like the money was like there-ish, but we knew it was a major, major issue. Our house was tiny. And we're cooking out of a tiny house. And basically we were talking about having to buy my bathroom. Like, you have to buy it. It's crazy, like whatever. And over COVID, we ended up putting up a tent in the backyard. It was up for Purim for our event. And then it ended up staying up for like 2 years by accident. It ended up being cheaper. Because I just called the guy and I'm like, he called me first. He's like, I can't come take it down. So eventually he calls me like a year later. He's like, okay, fine, we're ready to take down. Like now I finally have the people that are able to come take down the tent. Do you want me to come take it? And I said, by the way, what would it cost if we wanted to rent it for 3 months? And basically, as the year went on, I just lowered the amount. I'd say, can we do it for like 600 for 3 months? And I was like, can we do it for like 500 for 3 months? And he didn't care. It was free money. So we had it until basically right before we left the house. For 3 years, we had it. We had
Wow.
2 years. Maybe 3 years. 3 years, we had a tent in the backyard. Suddenly we had a shul. We had a building. We had a space. It was great. It was mosquitoes. It was hot. It was cold. But I have heaters out here that I bought then. So we knew we had to buy. And Baruch Hashem, basically one of my close friends, older. I did a bar mitzvah for his son, and we learn every week, which again is the key. You have to learn every week. We haven't learned in the last month or two, and I feel like I feel like we don't have that deep connection that we usually do because we haven't learned for 2 months. But he was like, you have to. Like, you can't just wait to buy a house. We don't have the money for it, and we don't have the whatever, and it doesn't make sense. Let's see if we can find you a rental. And we have another friend of ours, a realtor. Basically, they had someone who was moving out of a house that we moved into, and our rent doubled overnight. From more than doubled. Our rent was at the time $3,000. It was actually $2,700, and it went to $7,500. Now, the way that I made it work is because this guy who pushed me we're going to buy a building. He's like, look, I'll give you $50,000, basically, and you'll use that to supplement every month
To rent
$5,000 to rent.
So you rent a bigger. And it was a bigger space for
our house that I'm in right now is 3,000 square feet, and it's built in such a way that you have one room that can fit 60 people inside.
Wow,
but
nice.
You can fit,
right.
58.
Nice.
So it was incredible, and that caused our.
What is this? 3 years ago? You said
this is November of dates. November of Pay Gimel, November 22. Darn Pay Vav, 3 years. November Pay Vav was 3 years. So we moved into this house, and I was like, as soon as we moved in, I was like, okay, fine. So now we moved in, and we're going to start looking for a building, because it was a step on the way towards the building. And he's like,
right.
give yourself a year. He's very wise, and he's like, give yourself a year, to figure out like what's going on. And in that year, Baruch Hashem, we met more people, we met more community. Our community went. I don't want to say numbers to make people nervous, but I'm going to say numbers anyways, because I think it's fair to understand if you have 30 people come to your Shabbos Friday night meals. I don't know if you can buy a building unless you have a guy who's going to step up and pay for the whole thing himself. But we have like 130 coming to our First Fridays.
Wow.
On a monthly basis. And it went from 70 to 130 in this house. And now we're in our new place, and it's going from 130, it's slowly climbing. 130, 135, 140. So it was incredible. And it was also October 7th happened right after. meaning 11 months later, which caused another skyrocketing surge, as they call it. But the point is, our Chabad exploded with people in these last. There was always massive growth. It was a bigger growth, even bigger. It was a big growth. Everything was a big growth. If you want exact numbers of each growth, who cares? It makes no difference. It's my story. No one really cares for that. So the point is that we always had this thing we have to buy. Like, this house is temporary until we buy a place. We're going to buy a place. Maybe we're going to live in the place. Like, and then I found it on Zillow, not on Zillow, on LoopNet, in a commercial space, and it was like $2 million for like 5,700 square feet, which is unheard of. And the location is perfect, which is unheard of. 2 blocks from the east side of downtown, which makes no sense. And it has a courtyard and it has an indoor and an outdoor, and it's easy. Like, the whole thing made sense. And I sent it off to the different people that are involved. I had like 5 people I'm talking to. Like I said, I workshop everything. I talked to everybody.
Nice.
And then we walked through it, and it made sense. And then the Abishter sent the right people in the right ways.
So how long, what was the timeline? How long from when you found it till
I found it in August after coming back from the summer.
So it was like it was like 3/4 of a year.
You put it under contract in December. That was the maskana that we're going to do this. End of November, early December, December 2nd or 3rd, we put it under contract. This is 2024. And we closed after an insane amount of work to raise the money, to get guarantors on the loan. We didn't even raise a ton of money. You know, for me, it still feels like a crazy amount of money. It's $1 million all told and pledged, $1.1 million all told and pledges and everything. But if we're being pragmatic, some of it's coming over 5 years. Some of it is money that will take some time to see. People pledged when they didn't have. People pledged based on where their business was at the time, but it's not in that place anymore. So there's it's exciting.
Right.
But the nekuda of it was we raised $1 million officially, and we bought it. We closed on Yud Aleph Nisan, like I said. So from Hanukkah till Yud Aleph Nisan was a timeline of the actual thing. We did our first gala at the time, a gala dinner, which was a fundraiser, but it wasn't a fundraiser. It was a fundraiser. Chaos. And it worked. Baruch Hashem, it worked. And then we spent another $150,000 on top of what we paid for it, because we didn't pay for it. We took a loan, and we have 3 incredible individuals who decided to be guarantors because they, for a lot of reasons, mainly because they're tzaddikim. Not She'eni Gomer, tzaddikim Gemurim completely, and they took on the responsibility, with a clear eye of like how we're gonna pay it back and like how it's gonna cover itself. And we had tenants inside. The tenants have all mostly left. We found new ones now, but not all of them, only one. And gets there.
It's a good Mon experience.
I'm white for a reason. Exactly. But but it was incredible. It's been incredible so far. And now we're like almost a year in the building, and it's been transformational for our Chabad
For the community. Wow.
For my family.
You see that?
For my
Say
family.
for your family. Right. Saying separating. Wow.
I had Bake Like Bubby in my house on a monthly basis. It's a baking event, 40 people, beautiful, incredible thing. It was 40 people because that's the amount of people that could fit in the house for this type of event. And it would destroy the whole afternoon with the kids. And it would destroy that day and the next day, because they would go to sleep late. And they would wake up late. It was a mess, and we loved it, and they loved it, but it was also very taxing. And you have that. And I had a class every single week. I have a class every single week. I have a lot of programming.
Right. Wow.
And it was all out of my house.
Just that because of separating.
Incredible.
Wow.
But now, because of that, I have committees. I always had committees, but these committees now can actually do, like, they feel free to do what they want.
Right. You're saying because there's a building outside of your own private house.
They're able to go there. They have a code on the side of the thing. The Rebbe told UCLA that they should have it should be open 24/7. So the modern Mendy Levertov interpretation of that in Pei Vav is that there's a code on the building, and everyone that's close enough knows the code. I'll probably change the code, once every. My parents had it with people also in the Chabad UT. They had the closer students had keys to the door. And I remember my father changing out the lock every once in a while. He's like, we lost track of who has which key right at this point. So there's only one door they gave the key to. The front door was never changed. I think they gave the key to the Rebbe also. But they never gave that code. They never gave that key out. That was the key that stayed. And then the back door had a key that everyone had, and copies were made, and it was transferred over. And this student, that student, and that, like once a year or twice a year. Probably like once a year. If I would change out the key, and then everyone had to get new keys, and then you'd find out, like, oh, some guy's like, hey, the key doesn't work anymore. You're like, you got a key? Yeah. So we have a code on the side door, so people go in. I have a guy who comes to class. He's like my chair of the class, whatever. He goes there 30, 40 minutes early before class just to hang out. There's a piano. He plays on the piano. He hangs out. It's good stuff.
Wow.
And I don't have
Wow.
to be there for everything. Obviously happens there. It's a challenge. The challenge, and there's obviously challenges with everything. It's more expensive. It has brought in more money. Is it the same amount of money that does it offset? I don't even know. I don't want to know. Is it incredible for the community? Has it allowed me to start new events like this music thing that we're trying to start? Um, is it far from my house? It's an hour walk each way. Yes, it is.
Wow. So
Yeah.
Shabbos, you're
So
walking an hour.
Shabbos, I'm walking 2 hours. I'm
Wow.
walking an hour there, an hour
An hour
back. And if I have
wow.
Fridays, I'm walking 3 hours. I'm walking Friday night back, and then Shabbos day twice. I'm thankfully maintaining my weight. It's pretty good. I'm eating more clearly. So it's not so hard now because it's been cold or it's been not so hot. When it's gonna hit summer, it's gonna be brutal. I'm not sure what I plan to do. I really don't know. If we find a house by then, I have to move houses. I can't find a house right now. So if I haven't found a house in the walking distance area that is for sale in a price point that makes sense, that is the right size, or for rent in a price point in the right size that makes sense. Aside because there's a bunch of houses that are not the right size. Yeah. Anyways, so
Those are
that's the challenge that I'm kind of figuring out right now. That's the next
right.
challenge.
Right. So um one last question about the building is like the process of getting a building. Did that have an impact on the community of people getting involved, feeling like we're building this together, we're growing our community? Like, was there like a certain energy of excitement?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. And also you have to foster it. And I think there are some people that I fostered it better than others. There are some people who gave money for the building who I don't know if they're going to give again, whether friends of friends or things like that. Sometimes that's how a building campaign does work. People give once because they believe in the idea, but they're not going to give you on a yearly basis. Some people I probably dropped the ball on them. Let's be honest. So the community felt very excited about it, very invested in it. Some of the Balabatim, there are people I didn't know had capacity, young adults that are on the older end of the young adult spectrum. I didn't know have capacity, and they showed me that they have capacity. And then they ended up giving me at the end of the year again for the end of year campaign. Now this year I have to figure out. I have to sit down with them and basically have a conversation of like, look, when do you want me to talk to you about your annual gift? And can I decide when, or do you want me to come at a specific time? Because if I decide, then you wait for the stock market is high and you go in for the kill. I thought it was a joke until I learned that it's actually not a joke. People look at they check their stock market accounts like we check the weather. What's today? They check their stock market first, and then they check the weather to see what's coming. And if they see,
Wow.
oh, it's up, they feel good about themselves. And you go to them and say, hey, want to like, oh, $5,000 off my net worth isn't so bad. But if they see the red hour down and the numbers are much lower than they hoped it would be, then you come to 5,000. They're like,
Right.
well, if I just wait another 2 months, then I'll give you 5,000 then, and it won't hurt me so much.
Hmm.
It's dumb. It's like a good thing that I didn't know how important it was. I thought it was a joke. I heard from older shluchim or from other younger shluchim that heard from older shluchim that's the thing. Then I experienced it a little bit here and there, and it was funny. I had Balabatim comment to me like, "Oh, it's a good time to go fundraising." I'm like, "Why? Like the stock market's up. What do you mean?" I'm like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I didn't know that's a thing. Great, now I know." Very funny.
Wow. Beautiful.
But yeah,
Um,
it coalesces the community. It puts you on the map. It puts you in a if you can buy a building, it's incredible. I know that I'm going to have a challenge coming up in the future, which is I have to buy a house now. The way that most shluchim, the way it works is that most shluchim buy a house slash Chabad house with both personal savings, family help sometimes, depending on everyone's scenario, is very, very specific. And the Chabad house helps pay
in
for a
there,
bunch of
right?
it, parsonage, whatever. And then after the shliach lives there for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, then the community grows to a point where it can now be, they need to buy a commercial space or another house. And then that first house goes to the shliach, both in recognition
Right.
for the effort and the work, the fact that he's been underpaid, he's been paid bubkus, nothing for the work he's done, and in recognition that it makes sense that a Chabad house is going to put effort and money into a building, and you spend, if you bought a house for $1,000,000, it doesn't hurt to say, who's buying a house for $1,000,000 depends where you are, but let's just say make the numbers easy. You're buying a house for $1,000,000, and the Chabad house uses it for 10 years with the shliach inside of it, the whole thing, it's not a crazy thing to say that it costed $100,000 for a facility for a year, each year,
Right.
for 10 years.
Right.
And now it goes to the shliach. The equity can go to the shliach. Or you can figure out, like, there's legal ways to make this, like, be normal
Right.
and fair. Fair to the, as an older shliach once told me, you're not only taking a paycheck, it's taking about this kind of larger question of, like, how the money works, but it's like you're not only taking a paycheck for yourself, your kids are schwitzing. Your kids are
Hmm.
setting up Shabbos dinner. Your kids are suffering when you have
Hmm.
events in your house. You close them off in their rooms for 3 hours. Let's say, like, you have a class, you don't want noise, whatever, things like that, right? Which I don't always recommend. And you can do a class. You don't have to do a class in your house. You can do a class in a coffee shop. Was really where I did my class for many years. I moved it to my house because it actually was easier for me to have it in my house. This house, the way it's set up, it was easier for me to have the class in my house and be able to be at home, like, with my family until 7:30 than it would have been for me to leave the house at 7:10, go somewhere, stay out until 9 o'clock, and come back. It's a punct. It was better to be in my house, and my wife also decided that I should be in the house. So if your wife says, you listen to her without a question. But for the first 2 years of my class, I had it in a coffee shop. Don't be stupid. Like, you can also, like, and if you think this is the only way to do it, just talk to somebody else. Talk to another shliach, get a coach if you need a coach. Like, talk to somebody. Call a friend. Call your parents. Call your in-laws. Call somebody. Call me. It's fine. 512-905-2778. Call me. And we'll talk. I'll tell you what you think that there's only one solution. There's probably two, maybe four.
Hmm.
And then you can, like,
Right. So you're saying that
but because of that,
because
the equity you're getting for your children deserve to get something out of the fact that they it's a very strong word. They didn't suffer. They were part of the shlichus. And because they were part of the shlichus, because of that, there can also be a little bit of monetary, and we can't shame what monetary gain is. It's a joke, right? But there's going to be a little bit of physical manifestation of the things that they deserve. In addition to the ruchnius, the brachas, and everything else that comes down in health and happiness and life and joy and everything else, it also doesn't hurt if they have a house to live in. All of this is to say that I'm in the other side of the story. I have a Chabad
right.
house. I don't have a house.
Right.
So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Am I going to rent a
Bez
house in
Hashem.
the foreseeable future of my life? And one of my Balabatim was like, well, in the Chabad house, you should have equity for yourself as a retirement thing. And I had to, legally, you can't do that. You should buy a thing from a nonprofit, whatever. It's very, very, doesn't really work that way. So, whatever. Like I said, the main thing is the
Bez
Abish is
Hashem.
going to worry about it for us. The Lubavitch Rebbe has a lot of good things for us. And
Wow. Mendy, thank you so much. I could stay here for a few more hours, but I need to wrap it up. What
no
would be
problem.
what would be your thoughts, your message for a shliach, words of encouragement,
In
besides
short,
for
like,
everything
one,
that you
no. I'm
shared?
saying one thought.
You want-
I think first of all is know that it's going to work out. Kol asher yaseh yatzliach. It's going to work out. It'll be good. And the Rebbe doesn't just believe in us because of some ridiculous concept. The Rebbe dealt with people, regular, smelly little humans, and trusted them and gave them the permission to use his name, which I don't know if I would do to the average person, to use my name. The Rebbe gave us a very, very big,
Hmm.
I don't know if it's a gift. It's like this crazy concept that we're allowed to use. We come and say, I am the Rebbe's messenger. I'm his representative. Who are you? You can barely read Hebrew. Even if you read Hebrew. What are you? I would said, no, you're going to go, you're going to be a shliach, my shliach. And then, shliach shalom, kamayit, like, all, like, that's before you even get into everything else. Just like if Sami, you have the business card, Chabad representative. That's already, like, wild. So it's going to work. Devin knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing. And as you can see, it worked out. All these, like, Chabad is doing so well around the world, articles and things. They're cute. Boosts our self-esteem, but it's real. That didn't make a mistake. It wasn't like it worked out because, like, oh, it worked out. Look how amazing! It's amazing how it worked out. That sat and planned this. He knew it's going to work. He knew it's going to send you to this place specifically as Pratis that I was deeply involved in. It wasn't like Pratis, like, oh, the Eibishter works it out somewhere behind the scenes. No, the Bible chose your neshama and put you in this place. It's going to be batzlacha. And call people, talk to friends, and talk to enemies, and talk to family, and talk to other people. And I already gave my number. You can call me if I don't answer. Text me because I'm not going to answer probably. I think you're spam. But call people, talk to people, and and you're going to change. You're going to shift. You're going to adjust for your community.
People
Adjust
can
for
change. To quote you,
people can change.
people can
That's
change.
shockingly, surprisingly, but it's very, very. And it'll be good. It'll be very, very good. It'll be very good. Even when it's not good, it'll be very good. But that's not. I don't like. I don't believe in that. It's not that even when it's not good, that's the Rebbe didn't like that either. The Rebbe said Teva Nir Vanigla only. Hanir Vanigla, Hanir Vanigla, Hanir Vanigla, every time, because it's not
Amen.
the Alter Rebbe's version of Hanir Vanigla of Tev, which is not wrong, obviously. Chas V'Shalom didn't even think that to say that, but like that idea that there's Tev Nister and there's Hecher and whatever, that was great back in the day. It's not a thing anymore. Now it's Teva Nir Vanigla to the hilt.
Amen. Wow, beautiful. Wow, Mendy, thank you so much
Learning for this,
for taking
be
the
a
time.
chassid. That's it. That's the whole thing. And there are many shluchim that are way more. I'm speaking because I like to talk, but there's a lot of shluchim who are. You want to have the short answer of everything. Learn chassidus, learn the Rebbe's Torah. If you don't understand what's going on, because there's a good chance you don't, listen to the shiurim, listen to Rabbi Yoel if you like his Yiddish, read his books. There's many of the mashpiyim that talk in English today are in that direction. In the hashpah, chassidus is understood. It makes sense. It's clear. The Rebbe, it's very, very clear. Very, 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 very clear. And when you do that, you talk it, you explain it to people. People are dying for purpose. They're dying to understand Avad Chassidus and dying to understand the Eibush there. The most smartest people that you talk to are going to only respond. Not when you tell them about your wife's kugel cake and all these other stuff. Learn Chassidus, learn Torah. That's it. For yourself and for people, both, whichever one you want. And don't get too confused. You can learn for the sake of learning with other people. The Rebbe said it's okay.
Wow, powerful.
Okay, that's enough.
Mendy, thank you.
Pleasure's mine.
The Eibush should give you continued atzlacha. And I know you like the vayancha v'erevecha, but my bracha is it shouldn't be so much vayancha.
Amen. Oh well, we'll just keep raising the bar.
Okay.
Like
All right.
we'll find a new thing to. That's what you're supposed to do, essentially, at the end of the day. But even the regular life trajectory is going to lead to that anyways. Don't worry.
Right. Okay. Beautiful. Yashakech, Mendy. All the best.
Thank you. I enjoyed it immensely, but that's good. I like talking. Thank you very, very much. And I'll see you.